This is KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guest today is from the Old Creamery Theater. Say hi to Marquetta Centers.
Hi, Marquetta Centers. Oh, and that's me.
Yeah. Marquetta is starring in the next production on the studio stage at the Old Creamery called I'll Eat You Last.
A chat with Sue Mengers.
And is this a one-person show?
It is, unless the rest of the cast members are really, really late. It's a one-woman show.
It is all you.
It is. It is.
And this is the story of a Hollywood agent.
It is the story of Sue Mengers, who was the first woman agent, and she was powerful. The list of her clients, her first big break was with Gene Hackman in The French Connection, getting him Popeye Doyle. And then after that, like she says, the floodgates opened. All the Rod Steiger to Cybill Shepherd, Burt Reynolds. This was in her heyday in the 70s and into the early 80s. And this conversation, this show, takes place in 1981.
Okay.
And she's starting to get toward the end of her reign. Her biggest client and the center of the show is Barbra Streisand. And something has happened, and so we're at the crossroads with Sue and Barbara, and this show is the upshot of what has happened. And, you know, we don't know what's going to happen until the very, very end. But she is able to tell you about how she started. She was born in Germany. She never gives a real date of her birth. Smart woman. She died in 2011, so they think she was 74, 76, something when she died. But she came over to the United States. There's her mother and father, and didn't speak English. And so I think this views her, you can see her tenacity. She didn't speak English, so she taught herself English. They lived in Utica, New York, by going to the movies. And as she says, I was lessoned by Joan Crawford, Betty Davis, and Joan Blondell. And I think that's probably where the seed of love for the movies and movie stars is started. And then she moves on through her career, and she realizes that she is capable of manipulating the system, which at that time, you know, the great golden age of Hollywood is all men, head of studios, male agents. So she truly did break that glass ceiling. And as she says, I wasn't afraid to take on the big boys. That's why clients wanted her as their agent, because she fought for them. And you learn during the early part of the show why she is so tenacious. And because it has to do with her childhood and the way she was raised. And she loved it, too. I mean, there is no doubt that she loved being in the spotlight. And her favorite thing to do, her favorite pastime, was giving her famous and infamous dinner parties where stars of every ilk would come, and they would just talk and dish about other people in Hollywood. And like she says, just don't talk to me about anything else but showbiz, because I don't care. And so you have to love this person. And as I've been working on it and researching it and just learning the lines, I've really grown to admire and really care and love this person. She was 5'2", this little blonde, so she was a bitsy kind of whirlwind, hurricane, tornado, force of nature that was able to sustain herself and continue forward in this land of male-dominated agents. And so you have to admire someone that is able to do that, I think.
How did she break in?
She broke in by she wanted to be an actress, first of all, and she realized that maybe that wasn't going to be the right choice for her. And she answered a trade ad for a receptionist at William Morris Talent Agency. And so that's where she started. She got into the business, and she learned by being a receptionist and being surrounded by this that she liked the business of show business and not being an actor in it. And so she was able to parlay that. She was, like I said, ferocious. Even though she was a receptionist, she went out, she talked to people, she went to parties. She made herself a known quantity, and she was smart. She knew who was who and what was going on in the city. And finally, she got her break in this small little talent agency run by Tom Corman, and she became an agent. And so she started very humbly as a receptionist. It's sort of like starting in the mailroom. And then through that, realizing that she loved this business. She loved the game, and she was good at it. So,
talking with Marquetta Centers about Sue Mengers, the first female Hollywood agent of consequence, and
yes,
the play
indeed.
I'll Eat You Last. Where is they now? Did she write a book? What's the source material for the play?
The source material is from John Logan, who wrote the play, and Bette Midler did it a couple of years ago on Broadway, and it comes from several articles. There are lengthy articles, a newspaper. She did a 60 Minutes interview in part of her heyday, and there's also been, after that, a book written called Can I Leave Now? I like the way they say, I'll eat you last and can I leave now? She, short, succinct. So this is just based on interviews and a compilation of all of her events in her life, which were, written down and easily compiled during her Hollywood days. So it's a mishigash, as she would say, of her life in Hollywood and prior to that.
So I'm guessing that all of the brassy female Hollywood agents that we've seen on TV and in the movies, I think of Estelle, Joey's agent on Friends.
Oh, sure.
Have got to be more or less based on her.
Yeah, there are some things that Julie Andrews in S.O.B. Her character is loosely based on Sue Mengers. Diane Cannon, who was one of Sue's clients, in I Am Sheila or something. It's a movie that Diane Cannon literally was based on Sue Mengers. And in regarding to the Julie Andrews piece, Sue Mengers was quoted as saying, "Well, I hope an Alp falls on her." Now, I must say that the show is at the studio, which allows us great longitude and latitude with situations and language. And the language is, she was not a shy flower.
It's I noticed on the website, it's rated R.
Like a truck driver,
yeah.
I'll just say, or a longshoreman. Whichever.
So in creating the character, this would be one that would be very easy to let slide into too much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How
do you keep a hold of that?
That's why I have a brilliant director named David Q. Combs, who lived in Los Angeles and, oddly enough, actually met Sue Mengers.
He did.
So Sean McCall, the artistic director, and I were talking about who should we get to direct, and I said, is David available? And I wasn't even thinking about the fact that he'd met her, but I admired David's onstage work so much, and he's so smart, and I needed someone that wasn't going to let me get away with what I usually do with my bags of tricks, and he is making it so different than I think I've done in the past on stage here. I mean, I've done it before in other venues, but it's not she's loud and brash, yes, but it's not an evening of me flailing and talking like Rosalind Russell. It's not. I make you want to listen to me, and that's important for 90 minutes, one person. And so he's been giving me great direction, and I'm trying to make that just soak in.
You're growing.
I'm growing as an actor.
You're growing as an actress.
I'm a mere intern now, and finally I'll become a master of something.
The show is I'll Eat You Last. Opens next
June
week?
30th.
So
runs through July 17th.